All right, welcome. Today, we are digging into a really sophisticated cyber attack, one that turned a developer tool that people trust into an actual weapon. We're going to break down exactly how this silent infiltration happened inside the n8n ecosystem and how it uncovered a massive threat in the world of workflow automation. Okay, let's get into it.
So let me just start by asking you this, because you really need to be thinking about it. What happens when the exact tools you use to make your life easier, the ones that connect your whole business, what happens when they become the weakest link in your entire security chain? Well, that is precisely what we're going to explore today.
I want you to think of this as a digital crime scene. We're going to follow the breadcrumbs. We'll trace the attacker's steps from the bait they set out all the way to the critical flaw they exploited. And by the time we're done here, you'll get the full picture of how a simple, community-built integration got turned into a weapon.
So first things first, right? Why this platform? Why was n8n such an attractive target for attackers? To really get the attack, you have to understand what the prize was.
Okay, so for anyone who's not familiar, n8n, and that's pronounced n8n, is this super powerful open source tool. It basically lets you stitch together all your different apps and services to create these automated workflows. You connect service A to service B to make C happen, and you can do it all without having to write a bunch of custom code. But here's where it gets really important. It's not just connecting services, it's holding the credentials to those services. We're talking API keys, OAuth tokens, all the secret handshakes that let your apps talk to each other securely. So n8n becomes this central vault, a single master key that can unlock a ton of different systems. And look, we're not talking about small-time services here. We are talking about the absolute crown jewels of a business. Your Google Ads account, your Salesforce CRM, your Stripe payment processing. Getting access to a company's n8n instance is like finding the janitor's key ring that opens every single important door in the building. And that's what makes it such a juicy target.
Okay, so now we get the why. Let's get into the how. This is where we deconstruct the whole digital heist, step by step. And you'll see just how cleverly the attackers exploited the trust that developers put into this whole ecosystem.
In this quote, man, it just hits the nail on the head. This wasn't some brute force attack where they're just hammering on the front door. No, this was a supply chain attack. It preyed on something much more fundamental, the trust that developers have in the open source community and the tools they all share.
So here's the crazy part. It was a super simple but brutally effective four-step playbook. First, the attackers built a Trojan horse. They published a malicious package on NPM, which is this huge public library for code, and they disguised it as a helpful Google Ads tool. Then some unsuspecting developer who needs that exact function finds it and installs it. The package then pops up a login form that looks totally real. The second that developer enters their credentials and runs their workflow, bam, the trap springs. The code quietly siphons off those credentials and sends them straight to the attackers. It's that simple.
And right here, this is a massive red flag. The main malicious package was named, and I swear I am not making this up, nn-nodes-hfgjf-ironvcm-last-qewirt. Just look at it. It's complete gibberish. Legitimate packages have nice, clean, descriptive names. This thing just screams, I am super suspicious, and it's a classic tactic to try and hide in a sea of other packages.
So just how bad was it? How many people fell for this? Well, let's take a look at the numbers, because they really paint a picture of how big this trap was.
Over 3,400. That's how many times this one malicious package was getting downloaded every single week before it got yanked. And every single one of those downloads is a potential breach. A potential master key just handed right over to an attacker. And somehow it gets even worse. That huge number, over 3,400 downloads a week, that was for just one package. Researchers found at least 8 different malicious packages, all going after n8n users. This wasn't some one-off thing. It was a full-on coordinated campaign.
So you're probably thinking, how is this even possible? How can a random community download do all this? Well, the answer is kind of baked into the architecture of n8n. See, community-built nodes, by their very design, run with a really high level of privilege. They can poke around the operating system, they can read sensitive files, and they can phone home to any server on the internet. Basically, the platform gives a community node the same keys to the car as its own core code.
Okay, so that was the problem, and it's a big one. But now let's talk about solutions. Because this isn't just about pointing out what went wrong. It's about what you can do right now to protect yourself and your own workflows.
The very first and probably most important thing you can do is understand the difference between official nodes and community nodes. Official ones are built and checked by the N8 team themselves. They're the safe bet. Community nodes can be awesome and super useful, but they're built by, well, anyone. And that means security and quality are all over the map. So the big takeaway here, treat community nodes with a whole lot of caution.
So here's a super practical checklist you can use. Before you install any community node, just pause. Take a second and investigate. Does the name look like somebody just smashed their keyboard? Is the description totally empty or just copied from somewhere else? Is it brand new with almost no downloads? All of these are huge warning signs. And when you're in doubt, just stick with the official node if there is one.
Now, for those of you running really critical stuff, you can take it a step further. You should be actively monitoring the network traffic that's coming from your n8n server. Are you seeing it try to talk to some weird unknown website? That could be a sign it's trying to send your data out. Also, make sure the accounts and credentials that n8n uses only have the bare minimum permissions they need to do their job, nothing more. That's the principle of least privilege.
And let's be perfectly clear about something. This is not just an n8n problem. We have seen these exact same tactics used against other big automation platforms like GitHub Actions. The bad guys are actively targeting these powerful platforms because they know if they can compromise just one, they get the keys to the entire kingdom.
So all of this leaves us with a really critical question for the future. Not just for n8n, but for software in general. We all love the speed, the convenience, the innovation that comes from open source and community tools. But as this attack proves, that convenience can have a very, very steep price. So the challenge for all of us now is figuring out how to strike that right balance between moving fast and staying secure. Thanks for tuning in.